Real estate agents are a fascinating breed of humans. They will look you dead in the eyes, hand you a glossy brochure, and tell you with absolute certainty that buying a house is the safest, most bulletproof financial decision in human history. They will tell you that housing only goes up. They are lying to you. Right now, a brutal and unforgiving math equation is playing out across the United States. Entire cities are quietly leaking human beings. And when the humans leave, the property values do not just experience a mild seasonal dip. They jump out of a 10-story window. Welcome to the demographic death spiral. We have been so brainwashed by the coastal media into thinking that the entire country is dealing with a housing shortage, that we completely miss the places where there is a massive surplus of houses and a severe shortage of actual people. You clicked on this video because you know the narrative is breaking. You can feel it in your own town. The coffee shops are a little emptier, the moving trucks are all driving in one direction, and the for sale signs are starting to accumulate dust. Let us zoom out and look at why this topic is so critically important right now. For the last few years, the entire real estate conversation has been obsessively focused on interest rates and bidding wars. We were told that millennials were reaching peak home buying age and that there simply were not enough drywall boxes to go around. But outsiders look at a shrinking city and they completely misunderstand the mechanics of urban decay. They think a localized population drop is just a temporary rough patch. They assume that if the city council just builds a new pedestrian walking bridge or opens a trendy food hall, the local economy will magically reverse decades of structural collapse. The reality is far more terrifying. When a city starts experiencing a net negative domestic migration outflow, it triggers a catastrophic financial chain reaction. The local government suddenly has fewer taxpayers to fund the police, fix the potholes, and keep the public schools running. So, what do? They raise the property taxes on the people who are stubborn enough to stay. That massive tax hike makes the city even more unaffordable, which triggers another wave of residents to pack their bags and flee to the suburbs or leave the state entirely. Suddenly, the active listing inventory starts scaling out of control. The months of supply metrics go completely vertical. Sellers find themselves trapped in a market with zero foot traffic, and buyers vanish into thin air. This is not a market correction. This is a fundamental repricing of American geography. A house is only worth what a local worker can afford to pay for it. When the workers leave, the equity goes with them. Are you living in a city that feels like it is quietly shutting down? Let me know in the comments if your neighborhood is dealing with an exodus, because we need to document this massive demographic shift in real time. Let us count down the 10 shrinking U.S. cities where the property market is currently facing a total unrelenting collapse. Number 10. Flint, Michigan. Flint is a city that has been mathematically preparing for a real estate collapse since the late 1980s, and institutional investors have been avoiding it like a medieval plague. Real estate estimates show that median home prices here have been hovering in the laughably low $30,000 to $50,000 range for years. But even those basement-level prices are starting to crack under the weight of active listing inventory. You can find massive, historic homes that are practically being given away, with sellers aggressively dropping prices just to escape the tax burden. The lifestyle here is built on an incredibly tight-knit community of survivors. The people who stayed in Flint have weathered every economic storm, political scandal, and industrial collapse imaginable, creating an authentic, gritty Midwestern culture that fiercely protects its own. The local farmers market is legendary, and the artistic resilience of the city is genuinely inspiring. The catastrophic downside is that the population has been bleeding out for decades, meaning there are simply no inbound buyers left to absorb the aging housing stock. You have to deal with aging infrastructure, brutal winters, and a local economy that is still trying to figure out its identity in a post-industrial world. You can buy an entire city block for the price of a used Honda Civic, but you will still be overpaying for the water hookup. Number 9. Jackson, Mississippi. If you want to know what it feels like to live in a city where the municipal infrastructure is actively fighting the residents, welcome to Jackson. Data models show an agonizingly slow real estate market, with inventory months of supply spiking aggressively. Median home values are sliding down into the low hundred thousands as domestic migration outflows accelerate to terrifying speeds. Homes in the city limits are sitting on the market for months, requiring massive price cuts just to get a single showing. The people here are incredibly resilient, supporting a vibrant southern food scene, a deeply rich musical heritage, and a warm, hospitable culture that absolutely refuses to die. You get a low cost of living, beautiful historic architecture in neighborhoods like Belhaven, and a distinctly southern pace of life. The brutal trade-off is that the municipal water system literally fails on a regular basis. When a city cannot consistently provide clean drinking water or reliable water pressure, anyone with a remote job and a moving van permanently relocates to the surrounding counties. The tax base is collapsing, which means the funds required to fix the infrastructure simply do not exist. Your historic house might look absolutely beautiful on Zillow, but it is really hard to host an open house when the kitchen faucet is dispensing brown liquid. Number 8. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis has always marched to the beat of its own drum. But right now, that drum sounds a lot like a massive fleet of moving trucks driving across the state line. We are seeing local median residential prices drop roughly 5 to 10% from their recent pandemic peaks. This is driven by a sharp increase in seller inventory and a steady outmigration of young families. The housing supply is scaling up rapidly, and sellers who thought they were sitting on a goldmine are being forced into very uncomfortable reality checks. You get to live in the undisputed birthplace of rock and roll and blues music. You can eat world-class barbecue every single weekend and enjoy a surprisingly affordable cost of living right on the banks of the Mississippi River. The logistics industry, anchored by massive corporate hubs, keeps a steady pulse of employment in the region. The catch is that localized safety concerns and a struggling public school system are pushing the middle class out to the surrounding suburban rings at a terrifying speed. The urban core is shrinking, leaving behind pockets of incredible historic homes that nobody wants to take a financial risk on. It is a fantastic place to visit for a weekend music festival, as long as you do not accidentally sign a 30-year mortgage while you are there. Number 7. St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is a spectacular monument to the architectural glory of the 20th century, and a terrifying warning about the demographic realities of the 21st. The urban core has been bleeding residents for years, pushing active listing inventory to highly uncomfortable levels. We are seeing condo prices and single-family home values in certain city districts plunge drastically from their historic highs, with sellers facing massive days on market metrics. You have access to incredible free museums, massive and beautifully maintained city parks, and a hardcore sports culture that treats local baseball like a major world religion. The brick architecture here is arguably some of the most beautiful and historic in the entire country, offering massive mansions for a fraction of what they would cost anywhere else. The brutal trade-off is a sprawling, decentralized metro area where the economic energy has entirely shifted to the outer suburbs. The city limits are dealing with a shrinking tax base, high crime pockets, and an agonizingly slow local bureaucracy that makes urban revitalization incredibly difficult. The Gateway Arch is an incredible feat of modern engineering, mostly because it serves as a massive steel arrow pointing people toward the exits. Number 6. Baltimore, Maryland. Baltimore is a city that desperately wants to be the next Brooklyn, but the brutal real estate math simply refuses to cooperate with that dream. With a property tax rate that borders on pure extortion, sellers in the city center are being forced into massive price cuts. Estimates show median sale prices dragging down by significant margins just so owners can unload their properties before the next tax assessment. The waterfront neighborhoods are genuinely gorgeous. The city is packed with charming historic row homes, incredible seafood culture, and a quirky artistic community that locals fiercely protect. You get a deeply authentic East Coast urban experience without the suffocating pretension of Washington, D.C. Decay. Problem is that the city has lost tens of thousands of residents over the last decade. This leaves behind a crumbling tax base and massive blocks of vacant, boarded-up properties that drag down the appraisal value of everything around them. The infrastructure is aging, and the local governance is constantly fighting an uphill battle against historical mismanagement. You can get a stunning brick townhouse with a rooftop deck for cheap, right up until the city tax assessor completely ruins your life. Number 5. New Orleans. Louisiana. New Orleans is the only city in America where you can drink a frozen hurricane cocktail while simultaneously waiting for an actual hurricane to destroy your property value. Inventory levels in the Big Easy are absolutely skyrocketing. Median prices are sinking fast as homeowners face a terrifying combination of population drain and property insurance premiums that cost more than a luxury car lease. Sellers are trapped, dropping prices by double digits just to attract buyers who are terrified of the insurance quotes. The culture is absolutely undefeated. It offers a chaotic, beautiful blend of jazz, Creole cuisine, and endless festivals that make every single day feel like a chaotic holiday. The architecture is globally recognized, and the people operate on a frequency of joy and resilience that you cannot find anywhere else in North America. The catastrophic trade-off is that the geography is basically a massive soup bowl sitting below sea level. Climate risk and collapsing insurance markets are actively pricing the middle class out of existence. When your annual wind and flood insurance policy costs more than your actual mortgage payment, the equity in your home mathematically vanishes. Buying a house here is not a real estate investment, it is just a very expensive cover charge for the world's best party. Number 4. Portland, Oregon. Portland spent the last 20 years trying to be the quirky, weird capital of the Pacific Northwest, but apparently they got a little too weird for the local homeowners. The net domestic migration numbers are a complete bloodbath. This has triggered a massive spike in months of supply and pushed median home prices down heavily, with some estimates showing 10 to 15% drops from their pandemic-era peaks. Buyers have completely retreated to the sidelines. You are surrounded by breathtaking natural beauty, a legendary craft beer scene, and neighborhoods that look like they were specifically designed for a hipster utopian catalog. The food truck culture is elite, and you are just a short drive away from both the mountains and the ocean. The downside is that severe livability issues, rising street chaos, and an aggressive local tax structure in the downtown core have caused an absolute exodus of high-earning taxpayers. The commercial real estate sector is a ghost town, leaving the remaining residential owners holding a very expensive bag of municipal problems. Keeping Portland weird is a very fun marketing slogan, but keeping Portland financially solvent is turning out to be a massive problem. Number 3. San Francisco, California. San Francisco is what happens when you combine infinite tech money with absolute bureaucratic incompetence and put it on a beautiful fog-covered peninsula. We are looking at a historic market correction. Condo prices in the urban core are dropping by 10 to 20% as months of supply hit numbers we have not seen since the last major financial crisis. Sellers are practically begging for offers, and properties are sitting empty for months. It is still one of the most physically stunning cities on Earth. It features incredible culinary diversity, sweeping ocean views, world-class parks, and a microclimate that keeps the weather perfectly mild all year round. The historic Victorian homes look like they belong in a museum. The catch is that the remote work revolution absolutely gutted the downtown commercial sector. Once vibrant financial and retail neighborhoods turned into quiet ghost towns, sending tech workers fleeing to cheaper tax brackets in Texas and Nevada. The localized doom loop has severely damaged buyer psychology, and the cost of living remains absurdly disconnected from reality. You can finally afford to negotiate on a luxury condo in San Francisco, which is great news, assuming you do not mind that all your favorite local businesses just relocated to Austin. Number 2. San Antonio, Texas. San Antonio used to be the quiet, stable, highly affordable alternative to the Austin tech madness. But then the developers got a little too excited and built a city for a population that never arrived. A massive tidal wave of new construction inventory has collided with a sudden sharp slowdown in domestic migration. Active listings have exploded to record highs, forcing sellers and builders to aggressively slash their listing prices and offer desperate concessions just to move product. The city offers a beautiful historic cultural vibe. You get the iconic Riverwalk, incredible and authentic Tex-Mex cuisine, and a heavy military presence that usually provides absolute unbreakable economic stability. The pace of life is slower and far more family-oriented than the rest of the Texas Triangle. The problem is that home builders went into absolute overdrive during the pandemic frenzy. Now the market is completely saturated with massive master-planned communities and brand-new build-to-rent neighborhoods. This oversupply leaves existing sellers trapped in a brutal race to the bottom, completely crushing the equity they thought they had built. Remember the Alamo, because you are definitely going to want to remember the days when your house was actually appreciating in value. Number 1. Austin, Texas. And finally, we arrive at the absolute epicenter of the American real estate hangover. Welcome to the great tech collapse of Austin, Texas. The price correction here is practically biblical. Median home values have plummeted upwards of 15 to 20% from their absolute peak as the massive tech migration violently reverses course. Inventory is piling up to catastrophic levels, and the days on market metrics look like a horror movie for anyone who bought a house in the last 3 years. The city is an absolute playground for young professionals. It offers legendary live music, massive tech campuses, beautiful outdoor spaces like Lady Bird Lake, and a breakfast taco culture that is arguably the best in the nation. The energy here is undeniably electric. The horrific downside is that buyers completely exhausted themselves. The city became so insanely expensive so quickly that the local infrastructure and the cultural soul of the town started to fracture. The people who bought at the absolute top of the market, waiving inspections and bidding over asking price, are currently sitting on mountains of negative equity with zero exit strategy. Austin desperately wanted to become the new Silicon Valley, and congratulations. They successfully imported all of the tech industry layoffs and absolutely none of the geographic stability. If you look at these 10 cities, a very clear and undeniable pattern emerges. The mainstream narrative that real estate is a bulletproof investment only works in a vacuum. It only works if human beings actually want to live, work, and pay taxes in your specific zip code. You cannot algorithm your way out of a shrinking population. You cannot fix a crumbling water system with a trendy new coffee shop. When the population shrinks, the math completely falls apart, and the last person holding the mortgage is the one who takes the financial hit. Are we witnessing a temporary market correction driven by high interest rates, or is this the beginning of a permanent geographic reshuffling of the American population? Will these legacy cities ever recover, or are they destined to become cheap, empty monuments to the past? Do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you actually enjoy facing financial reality instead of listening to real estate agents tell you everything is fine. Drop a comment down below and let me know which of these cities you think has the highest chance of making a comeback. Until next time, keep your eyes on the migration data, read your property tax assessments carefully, and remember, the best time to buy a house in a shrinking city is absolutely never.